Hello everybody, welcome to the JavaScript course. In this video, I'm going to discuss the function declaration of JavaScript. So the video is divided into a number of parts. The first one is the function without parameters, and the second one is simply the function with local variables inside. And the third part is the function with global variable inside. And the fourth part is the function with parameters. Also, I'm going to talk about passing values to a function. And I'm also going to discuss the function with default parameters. Finally, I'm going to discuss the return statement, which is a very important concept of using a function. Now, let us see the HTML file first. The HTML file is quite simple. I just contain a title and a heading. And I'm going to link the HTML file to the JavaScript file. So I just mentioned the script location, which is in the JS folder, and the script is simply called myscript.js. Now let us see the JavaScript file. In order to use the strict mode, I simply say use strict here at the very beginning of the JavaScript file. And after that, I'm going to discuss functions in a number of sections. So the first one is simply the function without parameters. And we simply say that we declare a function without parameters. How can we declare a function without parameters? Let us see an example. Now I simply set up a function, or I declare a function whose name is sayHello, and in the parentheses I don't put any values or parameters, so it is called the function without parameters. And what I'm going to do in the function is that I just output an alert window. And how can I just call the function? I can simply use the function name. Okay, when I say hello, open bracket, close bracket, followed by the semicolon, I'm going to call the function without any parameters inside the parentheses. So let me save it to see the effects. Save, and then I reload the page. Reload. Yes, I'm able to see the alert window by calling the function using the function name. Okay. So that is a simple way of declaring a function. And I'm going to show you more about functions in the upcoming part of the video. Now I'm going to talk about the function with local variable. So what is a local variable? It is just a variable defined inside the function. So let us see an example. Here I have a variable inside the function. The variable is a. So a is declared inside the function declaration. So it is treated as a local variable to the function. And when a is smaller than 4, I'm going to print out the value of a using the alert window. After that, I do the increment of a by 1. So how can I call the function? I just use the function name. And let me save it and run the function. Save, reload. I will see 0, and then I will see 1, 2, 3, and how about 4? No 4, because when a is incremented to 4, this condition already fails. So in this case, I don't print out number 4 using the alert window. So this value of a is called the local variable. The scope of this variable is just inside the function. So when I want to print out the value of a outside the function, we can expect that the program doesn't work. So if I want to print out the value of a, which is a variable inside the function, what will I get? Let us see the result. Save, reload. I will see 0, 1, 2, 3, And I'm not able to show the value of a, because when the function already ends, the value of a can no longer be called back. Okay, so that is the reason why we call a local variable to the function itself. The value of a here isn't able to be shown. Okay. The other topic is called the function with global variable. So as opposed to the local variable shown here, I'm just having a variable that is accessible outside the function. So let's see an example. Now I have two strings, weather and reaction. And after that, I'm going to just put these two strings to the function that I'm going to declare right now. That is the function. I want to show the weather and the reaction variable that is called by the function whose name is showWeather. Okay. So when I want to call the function, I just say showWeather outside the function. Save, reload. Yes, I'm able to see the result. Since the variables weather and reaction are declared before the function, they are treated as the global variables to the function. So the function is able to just use the global variables without any declaration or definition inside the function itself. I just pass the two strings which are outside the function to the function itself. Okay. So I'm also able to show the variables that are global. So let me save and reload the page. Yes, I'm able to see the alert window. And I'm also able to see the reaction variable, which is a global variable. So after the end of the function, the global variable still exists, and the variable content remains unchanged in this case. Is it able for the function to change the global variable? Yes, we can do so. Now the function wants to change the value of the reaction variable to another string. And what will I get from this function? Let me save and reload the page. You see, the reaction variable has changed to a new one, so the alert window called by the function is able to reflect the change of the variable content. Okay. So the global variable can be changed by the function quite directly. Okay, we don't see let as the beginning of the variable assignment because that variable is already defined outside the function. Okay, so when I press OK, I'm able to see that the reaction variable has changed permanently by the function. Okay, so when I show the alert window here, you can see that the variable has changed to the one defined inside the function. Okay. So that is the meaning of the global variable. Okay, so the global variable can be changed by the function. That is the essence of the discussion for this section. Okay. So we see the functions without the content inside the parentheses. For example, showWeather here. We don't have anything passed to the function. So if we want to do the function with parameters, we can simply put some variables inside the parentheses. So that is another topic called the function with parameters. So let us see an example. Now here I say that a function called greet has two parameters. One is called person and the other is called greeting. So when I call the function, just put the variable content from person and greeting to the function itself. So the alert window is able to reflect the value passed to the function. So let us see the result when I call the function. So when I want to call the greet function, I can pass two strings. One is called Peter and the other one is called good morning. So you can expect that the person variable corresponds to Peter and the greeting parameter corresponds to good morning. So we just place the content of the variables according to the name of the variable. Okay. So let me run the program. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that I'm going to say greet to Peter is called good morning. Okay. So I just pass the two strings to the function directly. So that is called the function with parameters. So person and greeting are known as the parameters to the function. Okay. When we do the passing of the parameters to the function, we actually just pass the copy of the value to a function. We don't really put the variable to the function. So the initial value of the variable isn't affected by the call of the function. So let us see an example to see what this means to me. Suppose I have a function called add1. I'm going to change the value of a to a plus 1 and then I do the printing by using the alert window. That is a pretty simple function. So how can I demonstrate the passing issue of a value to a function? I can just set up a variable first. Suppose I have a variable called x equals 2. I want to pass x to the function called add1. And you can expect that I will show 3 as the answer coming from the function. And how about the value of x after being used by the function? We can see the effect by saving it first. Save, reload. I will see 3 because 3 is the answer coming from the function, which adds 2 by 1. And when I click OK, I'm able to see the alert window shows number 2, which is simply the original value of x. So we can see that x isn't affected by the function. So that is the reason why we say that we just pass a copy of the value to a function. So when I put x into the function, I just pass a copy of the variable to the function, and the original value of x isn't really affected by the function. So that is the essence of these two statements. Okay. Another topic is called the function with default parameters. So for the previous one, I don't really have a default value for the parameter. Okay, same for this function. Okay, so if we want to set up default parameters, we can have some idea as follows. So the function is simply called add2numbers, and I have two parameters. One of them called m doesn't have a default value, but the other one called n has a default value of 1. So what does it mean by the default value? When we don't put any value to the variable, it is just equal to 1. So it is not that easy to understand at this stage. So how can I demonstrate this function? I can just call it. Suppose I say add2numbers and I put number 4 to the function. What will happen? Since the function really needs 2 values, if I don't put the second one, it just means that the second variable becomes 1, which is the default value. So you can expect that I will have 5 as the answer coming from the alert window. Save, reload. Yes, number 5 has come out because it is equal to 4 plus 1, and the value of 1 is simply the default value for the parameter n. Okay, So what would happen if I just pass 2 values to the function? We can see the effect right now. If I pass 2 values, 4 and 5, the number 5 given by the function call is simply going to replace the default value of 1 coming from the function declaration. So let me save it and run it. You see number 9 has come out because the value of number 1, which is the default value, is replaced by the value obtained by the function call. So I would have 4 plus 5, which is equal to 9 as the answer. So it means that we can simply put the default value to the function declaration if the variable content isn't replaced by a value coming from the function call. We just use the default value for the parameter. Okay. We see in the previous example that we need to put 2 numbers to the function. And if I set up a default parameter, I can just put 1 value which represents the first parameter. Okay. Is there a situation that the parameter is really missed? Yes, it is possible. So let us see an example to explain the issue of the missed parameters. Suppose I have a function like this one. I want to add 3 numbers. And if the third value is undefined, I will simply assign 1 to the third variable. And after the assignment, in this case, I'm going to add all these values coming from the 3 parameters together. So how can I call this function? I can have an idea like this one to demonstrate the missed parameters information. Now I just put 2 values to the function called add 3 numbers. So we can see that the third variable isn't given a value. So in this case, we can say that it is just undefined. And I'm able to replace the undefined variable with number 1, which is defined inside the function. So you can expect that the function returns 8 as the answer, coming from the alert window. Save. Reload. Yes, number 8 has come out because I just do 3 plus 4 plus 1 coming from the if statement inside the function. So if I don't really put a value to the parameter of a given function, I just have an undefined parameter. And the undefined parameter can be handled in some way like this one. You can replace the undefined variable with a certain value, and then you can still have a valid answer coming from the function. Okay. How about the situation as follows? When I just put 1 value to the add 3 numbers function, I'm not really able to get the answer because I will have NaN as the result. Why? Because the value of Q isn't really handled by the function. So when I have 3 as the value passed to the function, P becomes 3, but how about Q? Q is still undefined, but I don't have any treatment of the undefined value of Q in the function. So I will simply have 3 plus undefined plus 1. Now R is also undefined, so in the program I'm able to handle the R value being undefined, so R becomes 1. So I will have 3 plus undefined plus 1. So in this case, I'm not able to do the calculation when a term is undefined. So I will simply have NaN, which is meaning not a number coming from the function call with just 1 value. Okay, save, reload. Yes, I have NaN because I haven't handled the undefined variable called Q in the function declaration. Okay. Another topic to discuss is the return statement of a certain function. So a return statement simply gives us a result coming from the function. So it is something similar to our mathematics course. When we have a function, we have a function value coming out from the function. So for the previous examples, I don't really have the function value coming out, and as a result, these functions don't really have a return value. But we can simply say some return value to the function by using the return keyword. So let us see an example. So this function is simply concatenating two strings. Okay, so I have a return value for the function. So when I call the function simply returns the combination of the two strings. So how can I just call this function? I can have an idea like this one. Now, since the function has a return value, I'm going to store the return value with a variable. Okay. I have to add let here. So the combined sentence is going to be a value after the operation of the function with two strings. So you can expect that I just concatenate two strings with a separation between them. Okay, so let me save and reload the page. Save, reload. Yes, I'm able to see hello world because I'm just doing the assignment coming from the function which is a return value to the variable called combined sentence, and I'm going to show the alert window which simply gives me the content of the combined sentence variable. Okay, so we can simply use a variable to the result coming from a certain function which has a return value. So the combined sentence variable is going to store the return value coming from the function. Okay. Actually, we don't always have only one return statement in a function. Sometimes we can have more than one return value. So let us see an example. Now I have a function called isEven. So I'm going to pass a number to the function and I'm going to see whether that number is even or not. If it is an even number, I will say true. Else I will say false. So you can see that I have two return statements inside the function. So when I have two return statements, the treatment is like that one. I will just return the value which reads first, and I'm going to ignore the rest of the function code. So if a number is really an even number, I will say return true, and I will end the function already, and I'm not really able to execute the else part shown here, because every time I see the return keyword, I'm going to return the value and I'm not going to do the rest of the function. Okay, so that is the meaning of having two or more return statements. We just meet the first encountered return statement and ignore the rest of the code. Okay, so let us see how I can run the program. So now I have two alert windows which shows the result coming from the isEven function with two different values. Okay, so the first one is 6 and the second one is 3. So save, reload. When I call isEven with the number 6, I will say true. When I call the isEven function with number 3, I will say false. So the reason is like that. When isEven is given by a value of 6, I will simply go to this line and I'm going to ignore the rest of the function. So I will say true. But for number 3 being the value passed to the isEven function, I will have false coming out because that line which says return true is never encountered in the function. So what the function encounters is this statement, return false. So the false value will come out. Okay, so that is the idea of multiple return statements in a certain function. It is sometimes even possible for a function to return nothing. When the function returns nothing, It simply means that the value coming from the return statement is undefined. So let us see an example about this issue. So now I have a function called isDivisible by 5. So when I pass a number to the function, I'm going to check whether it is divisible by 5. If it is not divisible by 5, I say return, and I just put a semicolon following the return keyword. If the number is really divisible by 5, I will return a string called not divisible by 5. So for the first return statement here, if the number isn't divisible by 5, I just return nothing. And when I return nothing, it just means that the value coming from the return statement is undefined. So how can I verify this one? I just call the function and I show the result on the alert window. Suppose I want to see whether 12 is divisible by 5. Save. Reload. Yes. 12 is not divisible by 5, so I will go to the first return statement shown here. Okay, since I don't return anything, it means that the return value is undefined. So I will have undefined as the result coming from the alert window. What is the result if I want to test 25? Save. Reload. Yes, I'm able to see this string coming from the return statement shown here. It just means that the function returns a string to me, and I'm going to show the string by using the alert window. So that is the idea of return nothing discussed above. Okay, so when the return value has nothing to follow, it just means that the return value is undefined. Okay. So this video has already talked about so many things about functions declaration. We can declare a function without any parameters. We can set up local variables and global variables to the function. And of course, we can pass some parameters to the functions. And the function is operated according to the parameters being passed. And when we want to pass a value to a function, we have to notice that we just pass a copy of the value to a function, not the initial value. So the previous example shown here isn't able to change the content of the variable by means of the function. And JavaScript also allows a function to have default parameters. So we can simply set up some default values to a certain parameter when we want to define the function. And we have to notice that the missed parameters would become undefined. Also, we have to notice that we can simply set up some return values to some functions that we define ourselves. And the return statement can appear twice or even more in the function, and whatever we meet or encounter the first return statement, the function ends. And if the function returns nothing, it just means that the return value is called undefined. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, please leave your questions on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.